We are playing NGS.
Extraction.
Personally feel like are the problems in PSO2.
Hey there everyone, this is
So
Monarchy.
anything he's gonna say are the problems.
So
I feel like most of the time with Krono and I, we definitely disagree on a lot of things when it comes to this game. I wonder if there's gonna be stuff that he says
I do
I'm gonna
agree.
agree with.
that I covered or reacted to one of Kara's videos.
I
I
mean,
feel like a
without
lot of times
knowing
kind of butt
him.
heads.
Some issues that he even
Okay, so these are just bullet points. I want to get to like the actual meat.
So
Here's
NGS
the problem.
suffers from a few specific things.
Okay, here we go. This is what I want to hear. Okay, let's see.
One of the biggest issues in the
The
game
biggest
currently
issue.
is the type of content that we actually get.
The
Our
type of
content has no
content.
staying power. It is
That is very true.
cycled through consistently.
Exactly.
And yeah, we get a lot of things that show up all the time, but none of it really.
Yeah, well, a lot of times we just get like limited time quests or LTQs, which
Yeah.
last like a week or sometimes just a couple of days, and they keep cycling through them. And even though they're happening all the time, they basically feel the same from one to the next, or just slightly different. And
I do
the game
agree.
kind of asks you to keep spamming them over and over and over again
It
to
gets
get all
exhausting.
these like drops out of it, all these materials and stuff. And that's kind of just been like the gameplay for the most part. And every once in a while they have an actual quest that is permanent, but because of these other, just littler quests being released every so often, well, not every so often, but almost every fucking week or every couple of days, it obsoletes the permanent quests that got added. Because that permanent quest, like, let's say it's like a 4-man big boss thing, that's actually like pretty cool to do, has like some mechanics to it. The drops in it are okay when it releases, but then something else comes out that gives the same drops or even better. That's just like this little piddly quest. So then that quest that just came out no longer is relevant because now there's this other thing that's easier to do that gives more.
I do agree because if you think about it, if we go to urgent quests or limited time quests, it obsolete like critical caster has said. So even if we go to other quests like purple triggers, yellow triggers, and you know the tower or the pyramid crap, it you cannot do nothing with it. So I don't know.
And that's kind of just been the cycle this game has gone through for the most
Yeah.
part. It's kind of changed like a little bit from what it used to be. There are still quests that have technically staying power that are like things that you get exclusive drops from. However, most people don't do that because they did it when it released, so they got the things that they needed and are no longer doing it anymore.
True.
So it kind of leaves everybody else, like a new player or returning players, left behind, and they see that basically nobody's doing that content, so they're like, well, I guess I'll just wait until I get a new freebie. And, yeah, they just stop playing
That's
again.
kind of how it
Or they
feels
just don't come
like.
back. So it's like, technically, there's like all these permanent quests in the game. Like purple triggers, these 4-man pieces of content, dual quests, ordinal tower, geometric labyrinth, but you're not going to do them because it's not relevant. Because you don't get anything good out of it. I think, basically, like, the only things that people do right now are, like, the LTQ and urgent quests. And it's only certain urgent quests. Whatever is, like, the newest one to do. Right now, there's literally limited time urgent quests that people are doing. Oh, there's also fucking cannonball. I forgot about that. Yeah, nobody fucking remembers that shit. Get that shit out of here. Technically, you can do this purple trigger or ordinal tower to get materials for what's called a Giga Trial. And that is technically still relevant. And that's technically still, like, the best thing to do for it. But like I said, most people that still play this game have already done that.
But also depending on the person too. But
Content don't need the Giga Trails anymore. So everybody else is kind of like left in the dust. And plus, what they do a lot of the times as well, there's noise. What they do a lot of times as well is when they have these seasonal events that happen every other month, they kind of just give some of that stuff away. So like the materials to make the Giga Trial are Mega Trials, so that's what's in here, and you can get up to 20 of them. And then there's also the Prog Trias, which are also in here, which makes those. And then there's also Dero Trios, which make more Mega Trials. And then there's these Trials here, which are also components to make more Megas.
oh yeah, so you're saying pretty much.
So they're kind of like giving you more of them through the seasonal event instead, so kind of pushing away from actually doing content and kind of just cycling through one piece that gives more seasonal points. So that can either be Combat Zone
You're
or the
pretty much
LGQ.
talking about these things, right?
And that's kind of just it most of the time, which makes the game boring. Let's see what else he has to say about that.
It really is memorable.
Bye-bye.
Nor does it matter. We have kind of almost optimized the content flow by complaining about the extra. I want to show you guys an example. I'm going to give you guys an example, right? And this is kind of part of what I thought personally was like a little silly that I saw complaints about. And then now that those complaints were answered, I'm seeing the repercussions of the situation, and it kind of upsets me a bit. One thing that was talked about in the video the other day was events. Kara mentioned, like, events seem very lazy and they seem very
It's because they are.
formulaic, and the reality is they are.
Exactly, they are. He's right. Yeah, they're exactly the same from one to the next. They have no uniqueness to them. They are the same. The seasonal events are exactly the same from beginning to end.
Yup.
It's just like the obsolete other quests, and it's just a whole bunch of LTQs strung in a row, which are basically the same from every other limited time quest. And you just collect seasonal points and grab shit, and that's it. That's all it ever is. Sometimes there's like a special scratch tied to it, which is also just involving the LTQs.
They've been boiled down and broken down into the exact optimal.
There's no like special Christmas events where you do Christmas-like activities or have Christmas quests. There's no
Emergency
Halloween
announcement.
stuff. There's
We
no
have confirmed a
Halloween
high
quest
energy
line,
reading
no
in the Steer
Halloween
region and are currently assessing the situation.
like
All Arcs
where to
defenders,
the seasonal
please
event
prepare
itself.
for deployment.
At best, it has like holographics in the cities, and that's it.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, items that are given to you have nothing to do with Halloween, or have nothing to do with like Christmas. The only way to get those set items is if they sell it to you in an AC scratch, which is real money.
Emergency announcement.
That's
we have
about it.
confirmed a
I
high
think the
energy
best
reading
thing
in the
that
Steer
they've done
region and are currently assessing the situation.
for a seasonal event
All Arcs defenders,
if I can
please
is
prepare
during
for
Halloween.
deployment.
They do a little smidgen of a Halloween thing. There's like was it an urgent quest or something like that, where you go in with a mobile cannon and you have different types of elements to shoot, and you have to match it with the different enemies. And there's like little holographics of Halloween stuff in there. So it isn't really Halloween themed, but it's a unique thing when Halloween happens. Imagine the Xmas events just UQs, but every UQ boss has a Santa hat. That's basically what it is. Like with the LTQs, they put you in Caveris, which is a snowy area, and they just have you kill enemies in it, and they have like a little snowflake symbol on their head. And that's pretty much it. And it's the same enemies. It's not unique enemies. It's the same enemies that you've been facing already throughout the rest of the game. The Peach filler arc is not like the entire game.
Use case of an event. Every single step of the way.
What is it?
They did give us interesting weapons that either didn't get used or got
They gave us
overused.
these hollow.
They gave us little small bits of story that, granted, they weren't ever all that like massive, but like they were cute little things, right? Where it was the Emmy was doing like research about something, right? So it has some extra quests for you to go out and do.
I feel like most of the time they didn't really feel like little story things. I wouldn't really call that a little story.
I do.
That's like saying random fetch quests in World of Warcraft are like story quests. I don't know, that's a huge stretch. I think one time, literally like one time, they had a seasonal event that had cutscenes.
This is an emergency transmission.
Where you were looking
We
at,
have confirmed signs of renewed Dark Falls activity.
I don't remember which
We
character
are
it was.
preparing an interception operation.
I don't know if it was
Please
Yemi or
prepare to deploy.
the other one.
Welcome.
But they had like cutscenes looking at, was it the Little Pants or Rappies doing something weird. And I was like, oh, this is actually like different. What is happening? Like, oh, it's actually unique. But it didn't last too long. It's kind of like a one and done thing. And it's just like a little, you know, cutesy, fun thing. That's the extent of like story they've done with these things.
Or, you know, like little things like that, right? Or reasons to go after specific enemies, so on and so forth, right? And that got so crazily optimized to the point
Building
where,
Rappies is expensive work.
now
Yeah, I
you
guess
don't
so.
have to go talk to her for the quest. Like, you talk to her once and that's it, and then it resets the quest over and over again. There's no special shop.
It's just like a
There's
repeatable.
no little dialogue or extra conversation topic. There's no
Don't
interesting
see it
weapon because players complained about the fact that, you know, rewards weren't good enough consistently.
It's
So
not.
they made the rewards quite literally the current base
Okay.
version of the best weapon in the game.
Before he gets any further, they give us these stupid stands for your creative space. And then they give you every now and then posters. Mostly these cookie cutouts.
And the rewards from the shop give
See
you
you
all
later.
the resources to make the best weapons in the game. On top of that, they provide you the resources to make the best secondary weapons and tertiary weapons in the game. And resources to make sure that you have enough to be able to buy stuff in your, I'm just forgetting the creative spaces. You have enough resources to get star gems. Because a very common complaint was that we weren't getting enough star gems. And yeah, one thing that happened, it was a monkey's paw moment, was they removed the star gems from one of the least used pieces of content from base PSO2, which was something I really enjoyed personally, and I rarely got star gems from consistently. But the reality was a lot of people weren't doing this piece of content, and instead they removed star gems from there, and they injected them into tons of other pieces of content instead in NGS. Granted, better for the overall player, but worse for me, and I can
Okay. He's just complaining about how we intercept or get SG or Star Gems because of, let's see, let me go back here.
very much.
Because see, this is other things that I disagree, and some things I agree with Krono. But let's say, oh shit, where is it? I think block. Okay, here where you're able to go to the old base PSO2. However, not everyone wants to go to the another content or go into the struggle of a complete game in a different environment of a separate game. What they could have, this is where Sega made a mistake, and how each and every player is able to have access of NGS in the first place. What they could have done is you play PSO2 and then gradually go up scale to NGS and then do content like how he kind of said it, that you could go intertwine going back and forth type of thing. But since you're not a it's not required to go to base PSO2 New Genesis, base PSO2 and then play New Genesis. It's pretty much they separated the two games, which supposedly Sega said is like a DLC or an expansion, or people have been saying it. Whatever the case is, new players or people that just downloading the game, you have access to NGS. That's their downfall. And that's how certain things that's, no one hasn't had that experience. And Sega didn't wait, or NGS or PSO2, whoever the development company, didn't wait to create this one. Instead of like people can marinate and get into NGS content in global in the first place. But they released it on PC in global, barely, and then before you know it, a few months passed by, NGS came out. They screwed that up. And they screwed up JP and other people, players, that's veterans, quote unquote, went to global side, but they already played the content. They didn't release globally as well as JP releasing NGS. What they did is released it in JP first, and then slowly adapted to global, but they released it to Xbox, and then slowly adapted to PC, or is it vice versa? Can't recall, but you can quote me on that. So that was the big issue, the big problem. But to address it, they even stated as well, if I could recall, they announced NGS as global starting to get PSO2. So who fault is that? Not the consumers. It's the company. They fucked up. They screwed up big time. So let's continue.
Give that concession. It sucks as someone who enjoyed going in and doing things like challenge mode, because it was.
Yeah, I wish there was more reason to go back and forth between the two. Like
I
base PSO2
do
and
agree.
NGS, but it is what it is.
Yep.
I wouldn't say that like is a huge problem. It's just like a nice thing to have. That's more of like a luxury than the problem.
It's just it felt like the weekly raid thing you would do with your friends to get star gems. Like, that's what it felt like to me, and I enjoyed doing that every single week. It was a huge part of the content that we did, and it got a star gems.
Casino for star gems, yeah.
However, the reality is taking the star gems out of that and putting them into a ton of other things that have to do with NGS is going to be better for the overall player base at the moment. However, complaining that enough of those things aren't available.
But also, just to cut off Krono here, it also gives the upper advantage to players that is in premium and whales. Once they cut off the we should say financial standpoint, or they cut them off in a way that they don't have access and go to the base game, because in base game you have a lot of access to branch out, and if you played it and you beat the game, you have more access in finance, your income and your currency of the game. So you could spread yourself of putting, we could say, one account to another. But in this case, you're putting your resources in base PSO2 and slowly taking your resources and putting in an NGS. So that's your other account. So think of you have Bank of America, and then you want to, no, hold on, let me switch it back. You have Swedish bank account, because a Swedish bank account, you have access to different type of servers quote unquote, and also European axis and American axis. But since JP kind of split up from JP and global, now NGS came along. It's integrated with global, so he needs America Express or whatever account that is. So he's putting his resources slowly integrating to American banking accounts. So that's pretty much how um, veteran players, regardless if you're playing JP or global, that's how they do it. If you're whaling and if you use premium, you have more access, more capability to do X, Y, and Z.
Available has made them push them into more things, complaining that we don't make enough money. We don't get enough
You
star
do make
jumps, we don't get
enough money.
rewards. Now we're looking at things like the reward box.
And game wise.
Previously, the reward box was pretty mid, unless you cared about the cosmetics that were there. The reality was it was fairly bad. Now the reward box is objectively good. It is very.
I mean, at this point, I don't even know if I can really complain about the rewards anymore. I feel like the rewards are fine at this point. I feel like they've overkilled it with rewards because we were complaining for so much for so long.
Reward box.
I think they went to the other side of the spectrum to where it's almost too good for some things, not everything, but some things, specifically limited time quests and whatnot. They're so rewarding to the point where you don't want to do anything else, and I think that is a huge issue.
Yeah.
I just wish with the reward system, or just rewards in general,
I say
I wish it
rewards
was more
in general.
varied. So instead of just like everybody focusing on a singular quest because that's the best thing to do, I want there to be several best things to do, but those best things are for this specific thing, that specific thing, and that specific thing. Not one quest being the best for all of these things combined.
Okay, to cut off critical, sorry about that, but he's pretty much explaining how you know you have a certain duty from main story, side quest, um, what's this called? Cocoons, tower, and these things that is popping up. The urgent, what is it?
Dark
Is it
Falls
urgent
activity
quest?
confirmed. Please deploy to Central Alpha and repel it. We're
Okay,
counting
so
on you.
anytime that this warning shit comes out, you have to supposedly fight the Dark Falls and other enemies that's in these targets. However, you don't have reason to do those things because pretty much they're giving you the same shit. You could do it from limited time quest or urgent quest, Lucille, Lucille, yeah, Lucille and Nameless City. And then if there is Crimson, sectors, zones, you pretty much get the exactly same rewards. Or if not, um, you might, oops, you might need to go in a different area to get something else besides those type of rewards. But regardless from that, from Alio, Retem, Kavaris, and Stia has a little slightly difference of what you're getting on if you're battling sectors and battling certain enemies. So that I agree 100% with Critical and kind of with Krono. But it's bland. If they do it right, kind of like I keep saying Borderlands. Borderlands had things right when once you're playing the game and you're going in a certain area, the rewards is different for each and every um, area or location, or if you want to call it sector zones. And from there, you're gonna have a certain enemy on, let's say, this location, and you're gonna have a certain area enemy in this location that will drop a rare item or a rare gear or weapon, depending on the equipment that you're looking for to build your character. And that is key point of if you're gonna fight a certain enemy or fight a certain name enemy or boss, mini boss, that's gonna drop you something, you're gonna keep on going to farm or grind that certain spot till you get that certain item. That's which, if you played Borderlands, you know what I'm talking about. How that system works. In this case, if Sega NGS drop whatever the hell they're doing and focus on giving better reward system, that would be fantastic. And how to implement on how we play the game and how we see certain enemies, certain creatures, certain dolls, whatever you want to call it. That would give us a different perspective of the game itself, because you're making things that wasn't valuable, or it's not, you don't need to play that certain game in a certain area. Now you have to go in there, so they're giving you a goal on receiving and getting a certain reward or certain loot pool. However, Sega is not doing that. They don't give a shit about that. But yeah,
I think that's how it should be. Is like it has to be separated
I
into
agree.
little chunks. So there might be some common materials that are given in each of these three things. So like maybe the volts and the advances and stuff to upgrade the Exelio thing or whatever. But like certain augments from here, certain augments from here, and certain augments from there.
Yup.
I think that's like the best part to split, or like even certain kind of weapons from here, there, and there.
Yeah, before I cut you off again, but also before it goes any further, what they could have done is um each um I want to say
Hello?
each augment or each weapon series has to be addressed to their region. So let's go here really quick.
Welcome.
Like these weapons here stays in Alio region, and if you have, and also
Drop in again sometime.
Evil Cult can be shared a little bit in Alio, and most of it the Evil Cult can be in, Retemp, you could say, or this is the final upgrade, right? But it still can be valuable and usable. But we'll talk that a little later.
That are different. So like have more variety with the series, have more variety with the builds, have
Yes.
more items to equip. That isn't just like a straight upgrade. It's like a side grade thing, and it actually
Uh-huh.
can completely change your build depending on which one you choose.
Right.
Not just like, oh, there's only this one weapon series, there's only this one armor set. There's pretty much no other choice.
Right.
Like the only choice that you have is, oh, do you want a little bit more HP or do you want a little bit more photon points, a little bit more PP?
Exactly.
Trading, there's no magic indicator that's going to tell you when to buy and sell. So instead of relying on trading indicators, let me show you a